question. What do you do when 21,000 people on your email list just go completely quiet? No opens, no clicks, nothing.
When we audited the existing email, we found that there were missing pre-headers, no view online links, excessive white spacing entire the email, dark mode compatibility was broken, and the biggest one was that their main audience was in the Outlook email client. And for that email client only, the email wasn't rendering properly at all. So it's a big chunk of what they were losing the audience at.
Hi, I'm Risha. I lead the videos here at Marvelous, and joining me today is Mohit Savani. He's our SFMC expert here, and I'm going to let him tell you more about this story. Mohit, it's so good to have you here.
Thank you so much, Disha. So, for those watching, I'm the Salesforce Platform Champion here at Naviance, and I work closely with global marketing teams on CRM and Lifecycle programs. So, the project that we're about to discuss is generally one of my favorites, not because it was a clever quick fix of sorts, but because there were so many layers to it, and I think a lot of marketers watching will recognize pieces of their own setup in this story.
Perfect. So then let's get into it. Tell us, Mohit, who was this client and why do you think that email was so important to them?
Yeah. So this is a large European investment firm we are talking, and who are managing billions in AUM. Right, their audience is almost entirely financial professionals and institutional investors. So the dynamic is a bit different when you compare it to a typical B2C email program. Right, for their audience, email isn't just about volume; it's more about credibility, how the same form stays visible, stays relevant, and frankly speaking, how it stays trusted with them. So you can see it's central to the entire GTM approach.
Yeah, the stakes are really, really high. So okay, walk me through it. What kind of challenges did you find with their emails?
Yeah. So on the surface, nothing, kind of really looked broken as such. Emails were going out, the list was growing. But then when we actually sat down and audited the setup, we found three separate structural problems. So let me walk you through each one of them. The first one was the emails were broken like nobody had ever noticed. Like there were foundational issues. When we audited the existing email, we found that there were missing pre-headers, no view online links, excessive white spacing entire email, dark mode compatibility was broken, and the biggest one was that the main audience was in the Outlook email client. And for that email client only, the email wasn't rendering properly at all. So it's a big chunk of what they were losing their audience at.
So tell me something. These were like live emails that were going out to their active subscribers with all of these issues.
Yes, they were. And when you list them out like that, each one sounds almost trivial, right? But whoever is receiving these emails, analysts, financial professionals, are evaluating your form every single time something lands in their inbox, right? They are evaluating it, and a slightly broken email isn't just an inconvenience. It's just that subconsciously it is chipping away the trust, right? And that compounds over time. So people gradually stop opening, not because they made a conscious decision. It's just that uh, to dissing it, but because who wants to put in an extra effort, right? To read an email that looks soft, you've already got enough in your inbox. So people just start ignoring.
True, true. You're right. I've done that so many times. So then walk us through what the second challenge was, Mohit.
So the second challenge was regarding the Italian market. So there were roughly around 21,000 contacts in the list who were just completely dormant. No opens, no clicks, no interactions for months. And here's the thing with dormancy, it never happens overnight. Right. As I told you, it's so gradual, a few missed opens here, a few over there, and then suddenly a large chunk is just enough and list has checked out. And but because the total list size looks healthy, it doesn't trigger any alarm bells until it's too late. So think about the impact there. You are still paying to maintain that segment within the marketing cloud, but it's doing nothing for you. And we know how expensive SFMC can be.
True, true. And I would imagine that you can't just like fire off a "we miss you" email and then expect that email to fix everything, right?
That never works off. Honestly speaking, if that's all you do, it's supposed to be an actual structured approach, which I'll get into it when we talk about the solutions for the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So then what was the third issue?
Third issue. So it's regarding the welcome journey. So when someone was signing up, they were actually waiting for 2 full days before receiving the first email.
Hang on, 2 days.
Yes, 2 days, and that matters a lot because the moment someone signs up is genuinely the highest intent moment in that subscriber's life cycle, and they just chose to engage with you. That's when the curiosity is at peak, right? So when a welcome email arrives 2 days later, that window has already gone. You've already missed the moment.
So what I'm hearing is that at every stage, whether we're talking about onboarding, we're talking about re-engagement, even with the basic email quality also, there were a lot of gaps. And so none of it was working together, right?
Correct. And that's a fair way to put it. So these are like three separate structural gaps, but that's exactly why the story is interesting, right? Because this is such a common problem that we face with our clients and everyone that starts happening gradually, as I said, and it's hard to spot it in the initial days. But the good news is that what becomes possible when we fix this properly, and I love to walk you through how we approached it.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't you start with how we fixed it with the infrastructure?
As I mentioned, like before writing a single line of code, we audited everything, every existing email, every existing template. We mapped out all the failure points, rendering issues, structural inconsistencies, anything that was out of sync with the brand guidelines. Then we started rebuilding it from scratch. We ensured like everything was properly aligned with the brand guidelines and according to today's modern email standards that are available out there, right? And what we did is that all the new emails or all the templates that we built, they had now pre-headers on every email, view online links, proper spacing cleanup, full dark mode compatibility. But the part that made the real difference was that rather than rebuilding individual one of emails, what we did is that we went ahead with a modular email library and we roughly built around 100 reusable modules for them. Modules such as event confirmation, podcasting, press release modules, author bio, content attribution modules, templates related for marketing, sales, and event campaigns. Everything was covered in these 100 reusable modules.
And we tested each of these modules for compatibility, right?
Right, every single one. Pre-header, already check, dark mode safe, Outlook compatible. So now when the team is putting together a campaign, they are not, starting from a blank canvas every time. They are pulling from a library of already built blocks that have already been tested. So it's drag, drop, done. And every email that goes out looks consistent now because it's built on the same foundation.
I love that. I love that. So instead of like 10 different people building like 10 different email structures, everyone was working from the same, like a tested foundation.
Exactly like that. So every email that goes out now was looking more polished, loading up correctly, and working across all clients.
Okay, so we spoke about the dormant list earlier, right? So I think that this is one of the segments that a lot of people would be interested in knowing more about, right? So how, because they themselves would have dealt with it at some point. So what was your actual strategy here when it comes to fixing that?
Right. So the first thing that we did was that, get clear on what you're actually trying to achieve over here. This isn't a sales campaign or it's not a content push. The only goal was to get those people to re-engage with the brand. We wanted to reignite that relationship for those audiences. And that kind of clarity changes how we write every single email in the journey. The structure that we created for the re-engagement journey, it was, around three content objectives. Like objective one was somewhere around, we are missing you nudge. Objective two was somewhere around, reconnect based on product preferences. And the third objective that we had was that give them a reason to buy. And each of them objective had its own meaning. Where we are missing you was kind of a warm personal reconnect tone, reminding them of the relationship and not just a mailing list. While the product preferences reconnect, it was a CTA based contacts where they were linking to the content relevant to their investment focus already, right? And giving them a reason to buy was somewhere a kind of a nudge where we are redirecting them to, available insights, podcasts, events, tailored solutions, a preference update, that they can update their preferences, so they could control what they wanted to hear about.
So basically, there were three emails then?
Technically three, but what we did is that we structured them as a two-email journey with an A/B testing built into the first email. So where email one had two versions, version A and version B. And version A, so this was the classic, warm reconnect, right? And the "we miss you" email, acknowledging the silence that we have been hearing from them, without any guilt tripping them, rather than, a genuine, "we'd like to hear from you again," and give the audience an easy way to back in. Whereas the version B, it was a completely different angle over there. It was less emotional, more professional. It opened, with the investment landscape, where the investment landscape is right now, how things are shifting. And essentially, it was an email that said, "Are you staying across this?" It was designed to trigger that, professional FOMO, the feeling that I need to be a part of this conversation.
So you're essentially speaking to two different types of disengaged contacts, as you said, right? People who are responding to the relationship cues, and then there are those people who are responding more to the industry relevant side of things.
Exactly. So the mechanics were pretty simple. If someone didn't open version A, they automatically receive version B a few days later. And it was a second attempt to connect with them as well. But with a genuinely different message, it wasn't the same that was being resent. Whereas now the email 2 was the last resort to, connect with them, though contacts who didn't, interacted with either version of email 1. So we send them one final honest reach out before sunsetting them from the active list.
So Mohit, all of this was done through SFMC journeys, right?
Yes, fully automated. Once a contact hit the dormancy threshold, they entered the journey, the A/B split, the timing, the follow-up logic, all handled automatically. So there was no manual intervention needed at all.
That's so cool. So let's get to the question that everybody wants to know, right? What did the numbers look like?
So out of 21,000 dormant contacts, roughly 1,000 people re-engaged through that. So that's about 4.76 reactivation rate. Now, for context, the industry benchmarks for re-engagement campaigns typically hit somewhere in the range of 3 to 5%. So landing at the top end of that from a list that had been completely silent, it's a solid result, I would say. And it's confirmed that our approach was working and is right.
Absolutely. And you also spoke about revamping their welcome series earlier, right? So let's talk about that, because I do believe that a lot of marketers would love to know more about that.
Yeah, so it's honestly the most overlooked part of a lifecycle marketing when we talk about that. The welcome moment is, when the intent is the highest. Think about it, someone just signed up. They chose you. Intent is again high. So you have to make the most of it. There are no two ways about it. In this case, their audience was waiting roughly about 2 days, as I said, was quietly eating away at that window of opportunity. So we rebuilt the welcome series from scratch, both the content and the technical triggers. So what we did is that we designed a 3 email welcome series. Email 1 was welcome to their brand. Email 2 was more about, there were 10-year anniversary was recently happened. And the email 3 was more around the strategy pillars and the leadership insights that each leaders had about there. So we covered that part in the email 3. And each of the email either had its own purpose, completely different. Where email 1 was, to introduce them to the brand, the mission, the history, giving subscribers, a reason to feel like they have made the right call subscribing. Whereas the email 2 was more about to, celebrate the firm's milestone while showcasing the wide breadth of the ETF products, giving few subscribers a reason to explore as well. And while the third email, which was regarding strategy pillars and leadership insights, was, to connect subscribers with the investment philosophy, linking them to podcasts, leadership content, the core strategy pillars. And that defines the firm basically, and helping subscribers understand how the firm actually thinks.
So basically, the content strategy was solid. Then I would also love to know about, how things were on the technical side. Like, how did you close that 2-day gap that you mentioned?
So for the trigger, what we did is that we leveraged the live Salesforce CRM data directly. The moment a contact or a lead is created in Salesforce CRM and meets the welcome criteria, the first email fires instantly. No wait window, no batch delay. The CRM event is the trigger itself.
And you mentioned that this brand operates across Europe. So were they managing separate emails for all of these different languages?
So earlier they were maintaining separate emails for each language version. So if we had done the same approach for the welcome series, we'd be looking at 3 emails across 5 languages, which would be like what 15 separate emails to build, test, and maintain. Think about this for a second. Like anytime messaging needs update, any brand change, you're touching 15 different files now. Imagine the operational workload. So what we did is that instead of building, separate emails, we build the emails as a dynamic template. The email structure is one file per email, but everything inside with regards to the content, headline, body copy, CPAs is dynamically served based on the language attribute stored against the context record in Marketing Cloud itself.
That's really cool. So if the Italian copy, for instance, needed any kind of updating, then how would that look like?
Just update it in one place. As simple as that. The template doesn't get touched, Risha, at all. It's just one framework, multiple markets, so it's infinitely easier for the team to manage this going forward.
Well, I love that foresight. Now, Mohit, let's zoom out a little bit and let's talk about the overall impact because individually, of course, all of these results, as you said, are absolutely strong. But then what actually changed for this brand, like overall?
Absolutely. So let me summarize what actually changed. Uh, the re-engagement journey deactivated approximately 1,000 contacts from a completely dormant list, which is 4.76% of reactivation rate. The second thing was the redesigned email framework because they are became their internal standard actually. Every campaign now follows the same modular tested structure. The welcome journey is not triggering instantly instead of that 2-day gap earlier. The dynamic multilingual setup reduced template management from 15 files to 3. And the other thing worth mentioning was that the re-engagement strategy worked so well is that now we are rolling it out across the other European markets too.
So, what I'm understanding is that what started as like few structural fixes ended up becoming this sort of operating system for their whole email program.
That's exactly it. Because a quick fix will really, get you a quick one-time result. But when you have an operating system, right, as you mentioned, you are looking at something that scales as you grow.
I love that. I love that because it's so important to have your foundations right. And especially because when your outlook is on scaling, that foundation is what is going to help you catapult your growth, right? I love that. Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, Mohit, is there something that you're working on with this client currently?
Actually, two exciting things. The first one, as I mentioned, we are automating the reactivation campaign across the other European regions, same framework scaled out. So every dormant segment, regardless of the market, goes to the same structured re-engagement journey. And the second one, my personal favorite, we are exploring personalized content delivery based on the website behavior. So let's say if a contact is browsing a specific product category, right, on the website, the next email they receive will surface the content relevant to that interest. So we are moving from lifecycle automation to more of a behavioral personalization for them now.
That's so cool. So basically, as we spoke about the foundation that you have built with regards to the modular emails, the journey structure, or even the dynamic templates, all of that is now sort of becoming that infrastructure that makes this level of personalization actually possible, right?
Exactly. Because you can't build that layer on a broken foundation. Now that the foundation is solid, it's a very different conversation.
Thank you so much, Mohit. And I really appreciate you walking us through all of this, especially with the level of clarity that you did. And I think what this story shows, and I'm sure that that is something that a lot of marketers will also recognize, is that it is rarely about, say, one big obvious problem, right? It's usually these few structural gaps that actually run in parallel that end up causing the end issue, as you said. These changes do not, I mean, these kind of issues do not pop up immediately in your daily dashboards, but then one fine day, you're looking at 21,000 dormant contacts. And so the real work is in diagnosing them together and fixing them in a way that actually sort of holds, right? So when we're talking about design, the technical SFMC expertise, or the CRM integration or content, all of it has to end up working together here. Now, for all of you who are watching, if you would like our team to take a look at your SFMC setup, be sure to check out the link that we have attached in the description. It will help you book a no obligation call with our team. And since you're already here, be sure to check out our other videos on CRM and lifecycle marketing. We're going to see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.